Hi, I'm Brian, and thanks for coming on this journey with me today. And today's a bit of an important one because I'm going to reveal what my Santana Desert Island Disc is. Now, the reason this has come about was that about 3 weeks ago, I sort of had a hankering for a little bit of Santana on vinyl and realized I didn't have any. Back in the 90s, I gave away all of my records and with them a whole bunch of Santana albums. I gave away Santana, Abraxas, Three, Welcome, Lotus, Borboleta, Festival, Moonflower, Marathon, Inner Secret, Zebop, Buddy and Carlos Live, Love, Devotion, Surrender with John McLaughlin. Gave them all away. And I thought to myself, if I start buying one of those Santana albums again, I'm going to probably buy all of them, and that's just too expensive. So I thought, why don't I buy an album that I've never had on vinyl? And Caravanserai might have been the perfect candidate for that. And I was in a record shop and I had it in my hands and I looked at the vinyl and it was very, very dodgy. So I went, no, went home, listened to it and streamed it. And I thought, no, that's not the one either. So I thought I'm going to have to go back to the list that I just read for you. So which album would it be? Which album would I be sailing off into the sunset and taking these cool sounds along with me? Which album? Let's find out. Okay, so thinking time's over. Which one is yours? Say it aloud. And which one do you think I have chosen? Come on, lock it in, say it aloud. And are you right or you're wrong? Because it is Lotus, the triple live album from 1973. This is a European pressing from 1975. And what I love of this is the one I found it for $10, $15, I think, is that it can pull apart into any way you want it, because I've never seen a really good copy of this album. And, we have the trifold here, but this copy also has a way out. If you don't want to use the trifold, you can get it in there. That's pretty cool. And there's the back of the album. Just one piece now, just one piece. Unless you want to open it up, because then you can find out that it's got some issues with seam split, shall we say. And then there's two lush posters inside. I'm not going to, well, shall I try and open one? No, I shouldn't have. But here we go. I'm going to. It opens up into a trifold. Jesus, what a mess. I'm just making matters worse here. That's the thing. Opens up into a trifold. Then the second one also opens up in a trifold. This is the pyramids, which is an interesting choice, seeing as though it's in Osaka, or Osaka, whichever way it's said. But that's a 4-panel one as well. And when you get to the inner sleeves, they're really cool as well, because they are all in the Santana Lotus inner sleeve. And they've got they're lined as well, which is fantastic. And each of the discs, here we go, and each of the discs comes with a different design on the inner cover. So that's, and a different, I'm not sure it's the design, but a different color. So lots and lots of goodness all crammed in to these three albums. And it goes for like very close to 2 hours. This is a 2-hour set. And over the last 5 nights or so, I've been playing this relentlessly and religiously. It is definitely my favorite Santana album. It's the one I'm taking with to my Desert Island discs, or to my Desert Island. And one of the reasons for this is it does two things so well. It hits you in the gut with this earthy, visceral feel, but also can make you soar up into the air and into the heavens. We've got the psychedelic, we've got the rock and the funk, and they all come together brilliantly. We've got Carlos on guitar, percussion, and echoplex, which is really interesting. We've got Leon Thomas on vocals and maracas, and I think there might only be one sort of lead vocal on this album. We've got Tom Costa and Richard Commode on keys, Doug Roush on bass, and we've got Armando Perazzo and Jose Arias on percussion, and then the amazing Michael Shreve on drums. It's incredible. Put it on. Close your eyes. There's magic in the air. Let's get into it right now. The opening to this album is a song called Meditation. Is it a song? It's written by John McLaughlin, and it comes from Love, Devotion, and Surrender. And it's interestingly enough, because it seems to be a meditative prayer to start off with, and we're called into a minute's worth of silence. And I'm thinking this is the perfect venue or the perfect country, because I don't know of another country in the world where you could get an incredible audience to shut up for a minute and maybe even go into prayer. So Japan was absolutely perfect for that. Then we move into an Alice Coltrane song from Welcome called Going Home. And the sound of the organ here welcomes us. And it has a very saucerful of secret sound about it. I often sort of refer to that chord progression that Richard writes in Saucerful of Secrets. I think it has gone on to influence a lot of artists. And Carlos at the start is showing restraint. Restraint. It's almost like he's playing a bagpipe with the wah wah, and the wah's all the way up, so the tone's really fat there. And we're letting the lotus waves of peace and harmony just float all over the top of us until we get to A1 Funk, which is a new track. And this is crazy. This is psychedelic, and I'm not sure whether it's in a good way or a bad way, but if I'm right, it means that Carlos has got his Echoplex unit and he's producing all these demented and crazy sounds out of it. And in this, he's demonstrating the dualities of peace and violence, of harmony and dissonance. And the keys that are being played here in this song really borrow from Hendrix's third Stone from the Sun. Moving on now to Every Step of the Way, and this is the end of the first side. This is from Caravanserai, and it was written by Michael Shreve. And now this is Wah City, Wah Wah City in all of its brutality, its ferocity. It just goes very, very funky, and it's almost like a set of steak knives which has been brought out for experimentation and showing off in the wee small hours of the morning. It's not a beautiful sound at all. This song is really quite dark in some places, but also in others it's much different. It's sort of like you imagine the soundtrack to The Enforcer, the third Dirty Harry film, and the music in there that was composed by Jerry Fielding. It's got that sort of feeling to it, except that the idea, I suppose, is that whoever gets caught at the end of that chase ain't going to see another day. And that comes back to the darkness in there. And the band is going crazy as Carlos plays. And then we hit the first, really, I think, example of his sustained feedback notes, where he just gets it up and goes, and he seems to be able to hold that as long as he wants. That sustain that he's getting from his Les Paul is absolutely phenomenal. You know, it recalls, doesn't it, Nigel Tufnell in the first Spinal Tap movie talking about the sustain on that one. Can you hear the sustain on that one? Well, no, I can't. Well, that's because it's not plugged in. But if it was, you could go and have a bite and you come back and it'd still be sustaining or whatever the line is. And then Carlos goes wild. You know, a lot of people talk about Carlos as being a one-trick pony. I don't think that's fair at all. I mean, he does play the Dorian mode a lot, and he's got the certain notes that he goes back to, and he does play a lot of repetitive licks which go over 4, 8, or 16 bars. He plays them over and over again. But he's feeling it, man, and nobody does it like him, and no one has that sound that he has as well. But also on this album, he breaks well free from that misconception or that preconception as you walk in. The side fades out. Every step of the way fades out just as we're about to hear which, depending on my vocals or your hearing, is the start of Black Magic Woman. So let's flip it over. And I think this is the only song on this album which has lead vocals. And Leon Thomas steps up to the plate. And I think he does a good job, besides which he can't just play maracas all evening, can he? I'm sure he does a lot of chanting and backing vocals as well. And I like the vocals. To me, I think this is the definitive version of Black Magic Woman, written by Peter Green. And it's so definitive that, you know, Carlos plays a lot of Peter Green's lead solo on this. It's an absolutely amazing song. And it comes, of course, from Abraxas. And right at the start, you can hear Carlos is deviating from what you expect. You know, you listen to this version on Moonflower and it's sort of, or Abraxas, and it's sort of by the book. It's played the same way every time. But on this, he sort of delays and goes into these furious bends to lift the power before it comes down to "Got a Black Magic Woman." I'm in the wrong key there. Anyway, the definitive version. And then that storms and stomps into this incendiary performance of Gypsy Queen. It is absolutely stunning. Now, I know we've heard it all before. Unbelievable. But is it ever played as well as this? I think this is definitive. And he's borrowing heavily and quite openly here from Third Stone from the Sun. And that's a good thing. It actually made me think, because I've listened to a lot of Jimi Hendrix live, it actually made me think as to whether Jimmy had ever done Third Stone for the song live on record, and apparently not. There is a recording in 1969 of him playing it in Germany, but it hasn't been released. So how lucky are these people in Japan and this audience on this night? Not only do you have Carlos coming out doing all the amazing things that he's doing, but he's giving you samples of Jimi Hendrix as well. I mean, that's just a total treat, isn't it? And don't forget that percussion groove and Michael Shreve's playing. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's just locked in on the groove. Do 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 do, bam 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 bam, and that whole percussion ending is just absolutely mind melting. And now what normally follows Black Magic Woman, Gypsy Queen does follow, and that's Oye Como Va, and off Abraxas as well. And this is a very familiar tune to um, most of us, all of us probably. I mean, if you listen to Black Magic Woman, you're probably going to have heard Oye Como Va, and it's a fun, it's a palate cleanser, if you like, from the mad insanity of what we've just been through. It's a definitive version again for me, although I welcome your suggestions as to which versions of these I should be listening to. I've heard, is it Tanglewood? I think I watched that ages ago. Anyway, not really a lead vocal here. Oh yeah, come over, but more of a chanting. It's sort of like a wasted group of men singing along at a party going well into the night. And speaking of which, please play this at your next party. Why wouldn't you? The Institute of Pop recommends it, and there's a cool Hammond solo in there as well. God, there's a lot on every side here. I'm pushing on through because the next song, after all of that, could be my favorite song on the album. And it's by Richie Commode, and it's called Yours is the Light, and it's off the Welcome version. And this version on Lotus shreds that version on Welcome, in my opinion. So where did this one come from? Missed about 20 notes there, but you got the feeling. It's a very pretty start to the album. And then Carlos goes up to these incredible feedback sustained notes. And they're used brilliantly. And I'll tell you why I think that in a moment. And that's because the rest of the band can be so busy and play all of their interesting stuff. And Carlos is just up there with the one note. So even though he's got the spotlight and he's dominating in a sense, it doesn't wash out the rest of the band. It's absolutely sumptuous and heavenly as a guitar line. And wow, it's an absolute sleeper. Then we go to Batukada and Shibaba, which are new tracks, and we're getting ready for the tribal dance. This is where the band really gets going here. It's the percussionist, the bass player, Doug Roche, they're really getting the groove going. And then Carlos, of course, does come on and take his share of center stage in the limelight. And at the end, there's something really weird. I'd love somebody to explain it to me because it sounds like there's a twin guitar solo or a line straight out of the Allman Brothers. And then the question is not which Allman Brothers song is it? The question is, how is it happening if he's the only person playing guitar? Was the Echoplex able to put in a pitch shifter as well? There isn't one of them. It's very cool. It's absolutely fantastic. And that is the end of side 2. Side 3, here we go. Opens with Stoneflower, which is Antonio Carlos Jobim song. And again, it's a nice little palate cleanser. It's sweet and it's smooth and it's short. Then we go into Waiting, and this is off the first album, Santana, and we get the classic groove of Santana, of old Santana, done by the new Santana. I absolutely marvel at Michael Shreve's drumming. He's incredible. And how they can differentiate in the recording process all of those different instruments and make the mix so wide and so perfect that you can hear everything is absolutely beyond me. Funnily enough, every time one of these songs starts and it doesn't start with Carlos playing guitar, there's almost that interminable wait until he does start playing and go buck wild on the song. But he doesn't on this song. It's really interesting. They even get the descending chord pattern at the end. So we're talking about, of course, Spencer Davis Group and I'm a Man. Onto Castillo de Arena Part 1, Sandcastle, which is a new track. And this is funky, crazy, psychedelic goodness. Out comes the Echoplex again, and everybody is thrilled. It's very spacey, very psychedelic. And then we move into another song, which is a new song, I think, and it's called Free Angela. And this is about the political activist Angela Davis, where there's a great groundswell to get her out of jail at this point in time. And we've got the serious funk, the serious jazz funk, the serious funk. We've got it all, and we've got it. And then we break out the wah-wah for some real groove. It reminds me a little of Miles Davis's Jack Johnson album in that respect as well. Then there's a quiet breakdown, and then Carlos enters with melody, accompanied by the organ boys. I don't know if they want to be referred to that, Richard and Tom, but the organ boys. And it's an ultra smooth segue into the last song on the album, which is Samba de Sausalito from Welcome. And it seems that you just can't take the needle off it, that it's one long concert. And as I said, there's very few vocals, and all the songs are just bleeding and blending into each other. And this song is a stone groove. Maybe I need to listen to Welcome again, which is the thing that worries me. You buy one of those old albums, and you've got to buy 2 and 3. Carlos is loud, and he's sustaining those feedback notes again, but it's he just rides it out while the band is underneath him going brilliantly, and then the end comes like this, bang, and we're out of there. Whew, and it seems to me that is the first break in the album. Maybe that's the interval coming up. I'm not sure. Let's get on to side 4. And what we have is Mantra, which is again from Welcome, which was going to come out just shortly after this album. Apparently it was already recorded. And we have these metallic reverberating bells that are creating this eerie mood. And then the drums, the bass, and the organ thrive together to enhance that mood. But everything just seems a little bit off kilter. And then the bells return and giving us something which sounds like sort of non-human, but human sounds. It's very destabilizing. And then here comes Carlos, and he's like the savior that he is, and in he comes with those feedback sustained notes. And I don't know if I've mentioned it actually, but I adore the guitar sound on this album. He's never sounded so good, so powerful as he does on this, incredible. And everything in this song then swirls up to this imaginative mountain peak and is absolutely stunning. Then we come up to the drum solo. The drum solo is called Kyoto. Strange because they're not playing in Kyoto. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about how I feel about drum solos. I will only listen to a drum solo if it has one of 2 conditions. And the first one is when the drum solo is on, another instrument is playing, thus making it not a drum solo. So you can be going wild in a drum solo and there's just an organ just padding out a chord there. At least we're attached to a key. And the other way that I will listen to a drum solo, if it's played by either Bill Bruford or Michael Shreve. Thankfully, in this case, it is Michael Shreve, and Doug Roush is playing the bass. He's occasionally accenting, going ba-boom, 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 and he's just giving us that pitch and that note that we know which chord we're in. And I really love this idea of Michael Shreve because he understands that his drum solo is part of the journey. It needs to fit in and integrate with the journey that the audience is getting so far, and he does it brilliantly. He's not just one of these drummers who just plays manic, slows down, goes boom, 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 and then speeds up again, showing his chops. He composes his drum solos like they were part of the set, if that makes sense. I love them. And I also love the introduction of the demented and electric bells which come in here, and the whistles coming from bells and whistles, should I say, the bells and whistles of the Echoplex. Once again, we've got Space Invaders feeling well before Space Invaders come out. And, this drum solo is not the opportunity. You're not going to leave your seat to go to get a beer, maybe go to the toilet. Maybe during the really crazy bit you might do, but not while Michael Shreve's playing. I don't think that at all. Big finish to this song, Kyoto. Then we go to Sayar Cabo, which is off of Braxis, and now the full band's back in. Keys are introducing the theme, and then Carlos comes in and flurries his fingers up and down the neck with furious ferocity. It's the sort of thing we really want there. And the band is so tight. This is the beauty of this band. I don't know what the drug-taking situation was in this band and whether it was any better or worse than in the first band, but they are like stretching out like Bootsy's rubber band. They can get so tight, and then they let off that tightness a little bit and they get that groove and that movement to it as well. And they do that so well on this song. On to side 5. We're still going, and we've got Samba Party. Now, I've always taken this with a sort of Latin pronunciation or meaning, but the other night I thought to myself, does it just mean Samba Party? Is that what it is there for? Please, if you could let me know in the comments, that'd be really cool. But Samba Party goes for nearly 9 minutes, and the feedback and the sustain on this guitar, once again, is absolutely beautiful. This total feedback and control keeps us very keeps us very engaged, excited, and in the moment. It's almost like time stops still. And it's really interesting. He's got this control that's all on those volume knobs, where he's placing his guitar in relation to the speaker, all in that Les Paul, which is kind of a perfect guitar for it. The solo there played, I'm not sure whether it's Tom Coster or Richie Commode, is just absolutely brilliant. And just when you think that it's electric piano, and just when you think the electric piano is just sort of moving into Muzak territory, he'll drop this dissonant chord or this augmented chord, and you go, whoa, what was that? And the answer is, that's jazz, baby. So, it's kind of cool. You're just floating in this safety, and then just like the guitar, the electric piano can just jolt you out of that, relaxed nature and make you focus in on it, I guess. A focus in on them again. It's very fusiony as well. And then at the end of the song, Carlos goes Superfly all over those. And he's got these bent notes and these furious flurries. And then that comes into Savor from Santana. And warning, there's a cowbell alert here. I suppose it has to come out. And I suppose I'm a bit surprised it didn't come out more often during this song. There's weird vocal stylings float all over this with the typical Santana bass line. Do 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 do. And this guy, and I think it was David Brown before him, they're no Larry Graham at all, that's for sure. But you try and do that groove for 2 hours. Do 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 do. Just do that. 3 notes or 2 notes. Just do 3 notes, I think. Just try and do that for 2 hours. And I think it becomes a moment where you just get locked into the groove. I mean, I know he's only doing it for a short while, but you get locked into the groove, and you're able to appreciate everything going on all around you. And you realize you're almost like the heartbeat of this band. Simple stuff, which is really cool. Yes, I mean, this is sort of a little bit of a cleanser, as I said, savor. We're savoring the occasion. And you might move in a uniformly considerate manner towards the bathroom during this song, or you may stay and dance. It's up to you. And then last on side 5 is Toussaint L'Ouverture from Santana 3, and we get this immediate ferocity and fury as it comes out the gate. And doesn't the Hammond organ just smoke during this one? The bass is locking down the groove as always. He said we needed to savor to come to this overture. And this creates a perfect rhythmic groove of who have we got? Michael Shreve, Jose Arias, Leon Thomas, and Armando Perazzo. Don't forget Leon on the maracas there, to go really wild. And they've got that bed going along there, and then in come the keys and the organ, and they support and take the song to the next level. And then we go to Carlos, who is the cream on top, is without a doubt, or the cherry on top. And it's a really simple formula. Let's put in the rhythm, let's put in the bass, let's put in the keys, let's finish off by having the guitar, but it works, and they do it just about better than anyone. I don't know other bands that have such a formula. I mean, when Santana's on the turntable, and that's obviously a really important thing to say for any guitarist in any band. And we finish with those crazy Space Invaders Echoplex sounds, and it works all really well. Let's move on to Incident at Neshabar, and this takes up all of side 6, and it's from Abraxas, and it goes for about 17 minutes, so strap yourself in. And the opening riff of this tells me everything I want to know about where Queen got their Let Me Entertain You riff from jazz. It's really interesting also on this album that there's reference to my favorite things from the Sound of Music soundtrack. Now, I never realized that these guys would have been so into the Sound of Music. And the interesting thing also is that I found out that John Coltrane's really into it. Must love that movie. Or maybe there's another reason for it. Anyway, I have no doubt that Santana is showing his praise and adoration of John Coltrane here for creating the masterpiece, my favorite things that he did. But then again, we get this furious anger going, and Carlos is going, we've got emotion, we've got fire, we've got passion, we've got anger, and then we dip down into that gorgeous, beautiful, serene, ethereal moment that comes on this song. And once again, Carlos just comes into it so beautifully with that epic sustain. It's gorgeous. And in that solo, he mooches his way into the Fool on the Hill by the Beatles. And the crowd goes as polite as they possibly could and give the Beatles a little bit of a golf clap. And it's a magic moment. And, if you get lost if you think that Incident at Neshabar may not be taking you anywhere, that beautiful moment when it comes down takes you home and takes you to a place where you feel just on the waves of a lotus flower. That doesn't make on the petals of a lotus flower. It's kind of amazing. So, have I been able to convince anybody? Have I been able to convince you that this is basically the peak of their powers? This is the moment that was caught in time on the stage in Japan, and it was the one that transcends all others. I think it's incredible, and I'm so thrilled. Where's the album? Oh, it's all over the place, but I'll go back to just having a little sleeve here. I'm so glad I was able to pick this up for such a good price, even though it is in that very much loved condition. So pleased I can deal with that. I can live with that. That it plays beautifully. The record's almost perfect. A few clicks and pops, but nothing that interferes with the listening pleasure. And it's just been a great thrill over the last week to be able to just immerse myself in this concert and almost feel in a sense that I was there. Live concerts often don't do that for me, but this one certainly did. And it's incredible that after listening to it for the first time in about 30 years, it still had that duality of that visceral feeling and that spiritual feeling as well. It's a masterpiece, I think, and it's given me so much pleasure over my life, but particularly in the last week. And reminding you that if music of any size, shape, sound, or samba pate gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? What is your opinion? What's the great Santana album? Do you have one? Or is it Lotus? Do you agree with me? Anyway, it's been just a great time going on this journey, trying to get it out quickly, but not too quickly. And if you enjoyed this video, then maybe you might enjoy one of the others that I put together. There's quite a lot in there now, and I hope there's something just for you. Anyway, until I speak to you next time, here comes that sun again. Until I speak to you next time, I hope you're doing really well, you're staying cool, and bye now.